everybody. Welcome to the show today. I'm excited. We have an incredible guest. Her name is Cathy Peters. Before I officially introduce you, I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that she does in Canada, stopping human trafficking. She's advocating for victims. She's helping stop human trafficking in Canada. She is the recipient of the Queen's Jubilee Medal for her anti-human trafficking work. She's an author. Questions to go over. So I'm excited. I'm so excited for this time. So thank you for saying yes and being a guest here. Really honored to have you.
Again, thanks.
Would you mind just sharing with us a little bit about who you are and how did you come to know God?
So, my name is Cathy Peters. As you mentioned, I was a former inner city high school teacher who now raises awareness about child sex trafficking and exploitation in order to stop it in Canada. So, I'm an educator, speaker, presenter, and author. I present to police, politicians, and the public. I have a teaching website, beamazingcampaign.org. I have a pamphlet, I have booklets, and I have written 2 books, and I've actually just finished a 3rd book for the Americans, which hopefully I'll have that out in print in May. I came to faith when I was 14 years old when I attended a Christian youth camp and heard the gospel clearly shared for the very first time. And I have been a follower of Jesus Christ ever since for the past 55 years.
Wow, that is incredible. With all of the work that you have been doing advocating for others, what has drove your passion to making human trafficking stop?
Well, I just want to start by saying I need to give your audience a bit of a background. The definition of human trafficking is recruiting, transporting, transferring, receiving, holding, concealing, harboring, or exercising control over a person for the purpose of exploiting them. So the key word is exploitation. It is the fastest growing crime in the world. Ages 12 to 13 are the ages of recruitment now into the sex industry, and those ages are much younger in urban centers. So 45 years ago, I taught in an inner city high school, and I saw the challenges for youth, drug and sex trafficking, gang recruitment. But it was not until I met Member of Parliament Joy Smith that I made the decision to stop sex trafficking. Our son worked for MP Joy Smith in Ottawa. She introduced Canada's first laws on human trafficking. So I want to be really clear. Trafficking and prostitution are the same industry. It is a deadly industry. Just look up sex buyer and serial killer Robert Pickton from BC. There is no such thing as safe prostitution, and there is no safe place for prostitution. So it's really important your audience understands that. And I'm going to be more specific. Prostitution is not a commercial exchange or transaction. It is sustained violence, trauma, and brutalization. According to survivors, they are exposed to STIs, HIV, physical, emotional, and mental harm, resulting in complex PTSD and trauma. It is multi-traumatic. Women are beaten, choked, suffocated, forcibly impregnated, raped, gang raped, raped with a weapon, anally raped, nearly drowned in a tub or toilet, porn photos taken, porn snuff films made, forced to watch others harmed, threatened to be killed, tortured, and the list goes on and on and on. Prostitution is sex slavery run by organized crime. With full decriminalization or legalization of prostitution, Canada would become America's brothel because we have the longest border in the world with the Americans. So legalizing or decriminalizing prostitution has been tried. And again, I'm just giving you a background so you have a global context. It's been tried in the Netherlands, Germany, the state of Nevada, some states in Australia, and in all of New Zealand. Such an approach means that governments and societies accept there's an underclass of women who can be exploited in prostitution. And to be clear, I'm going to give Germany as an example. Because they have allowed legalized prostitution, there's been an explosion of sex buyer demand So, forced prostitution, pimping, and human trafficking, and an increase of violence has amounted to a collective degradation of women across all of German society, which is now called the brothel of Europe. This is what we do not want in Canada. So, if I sound a bit passionate, that's the background. Now, do you want me to share a story as to really how I got into this specifically?
Yes, absolutely. One that just comes to your mind.
Okay, obviously, the number one that comes to my mind is I started working and volunteering for Joy Smith's team, and she asked me to take care of a young woman called Christine. She was a survivor of sex trafficking who wanted to go public with her story. Christine was 11 years old, grade six, straight A's, played the flute. She was a track star when her dad began drinking and her family fell apart. She was the oldest of six children. They were all put into foster care where her foster father, and this is not uncommon, sexually assaulted her. She knew this was wrong and ran. But this was in Toronto, so within 2 hours, a gentleman picked her up who said he would take care of her. He had girls at his house just like her. That night, she was on alcohol and cocaine, sexually servicing men 7 days a week for the next 10 years, if you can even imagine. Joy Smith was able to intervene, that's the work she does, and get her out of the sex industry, get her detoxed, and get her back into school. Now, it blew my mind. I was so shocked that an 11-year-old in Canada could be sex trafficked. I had no clue this could happen in our country. It blew my mind. And I ended up bawling my eyes out. She was telling her story in a CBC studio, and I'm bawling my eyes out. So, in the taxi on our way back to the hotel, and Joy Smith was sitting in the front, I'm crying. And Christine is trying to calm me down and saying, "It's all right, Mrs. Peters, you don't need to cry. What's your problem?" And I said, "Christine, you don't understand. This shouldn't be happening in Canada. This should, 11 years old, this should not be happening." So I made a promise to her that I would stop it in British Columbia. Now, Joy Smith heard me make that promise and holds me to it even today. So many, many years later, this is what I've been doing pretty much full time. She was the one that drove my passion. In fact, I just did a presentation with Joy Smith and told the story on a national meeting last night. So since that time, and I guess it's been 12, yeah, it's been about 12 years full time now I've been doing this. I started by reaching out to churches, and I'll be frank with you, no response. No response from the churches.
Yes, I understand.
Then I went straight to the police, full response. No, they wanted help. They were delighted to have, as a matter of fact, the RCMP even let me present to their first human trafficking webinar for all of Canada. So huge, huge honor. And because the police really appreciated the work I was doing and the public awareness, the politicians then were willing to meet with me. Now, I focus on British Columbia. This is a province I focus on in the country. It just so happens we're the furthest behind in the whole country. Again, we're on the coast, so we've got port cities, Vancouver, Victoria, and Nanaimo, which are particularly vulnerable for this kind of activity. And the politicians, so I have reached out to the federal, provincial, and civic levels of government. The civic politicians, no problem, they get it. They see this in their small communities. And in BC, they've been passing resolutions with 100% support, acknowledging that human trafficking is an epidemic in BC. So just kudos to the civic level of government. I mean, they live in their communities, they know what's going on. The problem is our provincial government has not acknowledged it, or they don't seem to have the political will to do anything about it. And the federal government is similar. The federal government, in fact, and I'll go into more detail about it, but we do have an excellent federal law, and it's just not enforced in the country, maybe in a few areas, but generally not. So what I've learned, if you just ignore a law, people don't even know that it exists and that it's not enforced. So just my piece is prevention. And just raising awareness alone is prevention. So the fact that you have me on, that if anybody listens to this presentation, that is part of prevention, because my hope is that all of you will talk about this with your family and with your friends.
Yes, so powerful. Would you be able to share a trafficking story that moved you into action to save others? I think you already kind of covered that though.
I can tie another one because I can tie it in with Tegan
Yeah.
Marshall. So
Okay,
I
sure.
do have a hero in this work. I mean,
Okay.
I have presented, I don't know how many presentations I've done, probably 860 over that to over 23,000 people in person, not including my online presence, which would be hundreds of thousands. But there was a young man that heard me, knew the work that I was doing in grade 11 on Vancouver Island. So I'm from Vancouver. He was in Vancouver Island, grade 11, and he contacted me and said, I have to help you stop this. Because he had a story in his youth group at his church. A young girl, and you can look her up, Michaela Chang, was found murdered. And she had been raised by her grandmother, but had a, I don't know, 52-year-old boyfriend or something that she somehow connected with, who knows how. And anyway, she ended up running off with him. Ultimately, he ended up killing her. He was beside himself. I mean, this is somebody he knew in his youth group. Of all things. So, I mean, churches, wake up. You can say, it's not going to happen in our church. It's not going to happen in our Christian families. Oh, you better believe it does. As a matter of fact, traffickers are really targeting middle class, upper caste, Christian families. They want wholesome, healthy, naive, friendly, loving girls. That's who they're looking for. So, dear Tegan, he contacted me. So he's in grade 11. This is in September. So once a week, I did a training with him, I guess, and I had him read a book called Invisible Chains that described human trafficking. And at the end of the year, he had to do a presentation of some sort. So I encouraged him to present to his school, which he did. And then I encouraged him to present to his local city council. That's Nanaimo City Council. Any one of you can Google his name, Tegan Marshall, Nanaimo City Council presentation. You can watch him. And I mean, they say it was one of the best presentations they've ever seen. Then the newspaper got hold of him, did an interview with him. He was on the front page of the newspaper. And then a TV program got hold of him and did an interview. Again, just Google Tegan Marshall. You'll find him online. So he's been presenting with me now for about the past 9 years. Now, the thing about him is he has cerebral palsy and multiple disabilities. So he's paralyzed from the neck down and has one finger that works. I mean, how do you function with one finger working? He has just completed, this will give you shivers and goosebumps. He has just completed an honors philosophy degree at Vancouver Island University. And that's having one finger. And the lovely thing is, he wants to do a master's degree and he wants to become a pastor. So he's presenting, like we have presented quite a bit over the last 8 years, including to 2 global summits. He was a hit because he was a young man with a disability speaking. So he can speak to all young people and they just can listen to him.
Wow.
So now he wants, because he's had so much practice with his public speaking, he's become very, very, very good. And he does full sermons at different churches on Vancouver Island. He sends me what he does, and it's absolutely remarkable. So there's my hero story. If
Yeah.
any of you out there think you can't do anything, this boy, multiple disabilities, one finger that works, and he's changing his world. So, and again, he's good on social media. I don't do any social media. I just write books and I do podcasts and presentations and that kind of thing. But he's in the social media world. So any young person listening to this, you can do this in the social media world. Instagram, go for it. Make a difference because we need positive presentations in social media. It can't all be negative and harmful. Let's overwhelm social media with the good stuff.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's just so incredible how you could help raise him up. And really, there is no excuse for any one of us, right?
Exactly.
So, what are the different types of traffickers in BC, and are they different from the other provinces?
Well, I'm going to change this a little bit and just go over the 5 main ways that people are trafficked.
But
And these are common tactics everywhere, across the country, in the States, globally, really. So, number one, you've got the lover boy or Romeo pimp who pretends to be a boyfriend. And boy, it doesn't take much. And they do this all online. I love you. You're gorgeous. You're beautiful. It doesn't take much. Although I warn you right now, they get sexual really quickly. And that's the red flag. Number two is snatch and grab. Gangs will use this. We also say guerrilla pimps will use this. They're mean, they're nasty, they will kill you, they will kill family members if you don't comply. Number three is renegade. This is a girl that simply wants to make what she thinks is a lot of money. There's an it's a platform called OnlyFans that a lot of high school girls think is the coolest thing and a great way to make money. But it's basically a prostitution website, and you're going to basically destroy your soul and your life. So, but they think there's money in this world, and I can assure you that's not the way to go to make money. Number four, the runaway. Girls and boys come from unhappy homes. A girl will be approached within 24 hours. In urban centers like Vancouver, it will be 2 hours or less. So it's very, very fast. And it's just like Christine that I was just describing. That's what happened to her. And number five, we've got peers will recruit their friends. So it can be a female friend introduces her girlfriends to, we call it the game or the life. And this recruiting occurs in schools, believe it or not, in elementary, middle, and high school. So we're seeing it in elementary schools, boy, as young as grade 3. So
Oh,
it's getting younger and younger. So all five ways start differently, but the result is the same. The purpose is to get nudes, especially if it starts online, which it usually does, is to get nudes, nude pictures, and then to promise them everything, but it's all a lie. So the tactics or sort of the end result is the same. It's to get that young person, boy or girl, into the sex industry. And here's the tragedy. Once you get in, you don't get out. I
wow.
mean, sex traffickers are going to make sure you don't get out. I think the UN says 1% get out of the sex industry. I've heard the range 1 to 5%. So the majority end up severely mentally ill. And they all end up on drugs and most of them are pimped out and trafficked. Um, they will end up committing suicide or they are murdered. So it is a deadly industry. It's not where anybody wants to go. And so when I present in high schools, police will say, I say to police, should I be nice and fluffy and friendly and happy? And they go, no, scare the hell out of young people, scare the hell out of them because they won't get out and they are sick and tired of picking up the pieces. So I don't get graphic with people. I mean, I was fairly graphic with my list of what prostitution looks like. I don't typically do that, but I do warn young people it's how you end up dead.
We need to know this, right? Would you mind going back about the guerrilla tactic? And I'm thinking, yes, this happens around the world, but I just know of so many people in Canada that think human trafficking doesn't happen, and definitely not like that.
I'm not even sure where to begin. I think what I would say to people, I mean, the reason people don't think this happens here is because there's no information about it. I mean, media really isn't covering it too much, except with the really horrible, horrible stories. So I'm seeing more news on it,
Yes.
but CBC, CTV, I mean, they're global news are really not covering this occasionally, but generally not. And that's the reason why that I wrote my books. But the guerrilla pimps, I mean, it's because we do have, unfortunately, in Canada now, we have, I call them foreign actors. We've got organized crime, transnational crime syndicates. Have really come into this country and we haven't stopped them. And it's not just Mexican cartels, it's all kinds of groups. And that's sort of not my area of expertise, but transnational crime syndicates are very much behind this. Why it's so lucrative, there's so much money. They will typically lure online. Most of it's done online, so that's why I really caution parents about phones. You don't need to give your child an iPhone. They shouldn't really have an iPhone until they're 18 or over. Use a dumb phone, a flip phone, something. You just don't want them connected to the internet. That's really the big problem. So young people they're so vulnerable because their whole world is virtual now, and that's where the traffickers are. That's where organized crime is smart. They are very organized, they're very sophisticated, but they move very fast. And again, I'm flipping around a little bit, but one of the biggest red flags is they will go sexual really quite quickly, and their goal is to get nudes. That is their goal, because once they have a nude photograph of a child, a boy or a girl, then they use it we call it sex stort. It's called sextortion. They will extort money, more photos, more videos, anything, and they will hold that over the child. Now, boys will not report. Boys will kill themselves.
Oh,
Boys will commit suicide. Girls are more likely to report. And that's why I say parents, 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 parents. It's really, really important you're connected with your children and know what they're doing online. But the majority of this is online. Back to the gorilla pimps. I mean, they're dangerous. The way they control these young ones is to threaten them. If you don't do what I say, I will kill you. I will kill your mom and dad. I'll kill your brothers and sisters. They're very, very threatening. They're very dangerous. Online, how do they attract? Well, we call it luring or grooming, saying, "Well, you're beautiful. I love you. I mean, could I be your boyfriend?" I mean, it just happens so quickly, and because children are online and they're younger and younger, younger, they don't have the sort of ability to sort of realize, no, this isn't right. This is something really off with this. They don't have that capability. And that's why I just scream to parents, don't give children an iPhone. I can't believe the number of children that have had iPhones at age 7 and 8. I mean, it's not that they're looking for bad stuff on the iPhone. Maybe they are, but the bad guys are looking for them
yes.
online. And with the boys, the trend that we're seeing right now that's very concerning is gaming. Video games are so popular, and the bad guys are very much there and will do direct messaging and then try to switch them to other platforms and make connections that way. We had a very sad case. Anybody can Google this, in Prince George in British Columbia a couple of years ago. A 12-year-old boy, Carson Cleland, you can look him up, and he got, I guess it was direct messaging with somebody online at midnight, and by 4 in the morning he'd killed himself. 4 hours. That's all it took.
Wow.
I mean, it's absolutely horrific. So we're into a very strange new world with the digital space, and there's no guardrails.
Wow.
There's no guardrails to this. It's a free for all. So again, that's why I'm thrilled we can do this podcast. We can
Yes.
just start to have the conversation about this.
Yes. Oh, that poor boy, all that pressure comes over their minds so quickly. They just think escaping this life is the easiest solution.
Exactly.
Just that's so terrible. Okay, so the next question then is tell us a little bit more about your book. When did you write your book? And who did you really write it for? And where can people get the book?
Okay. Well, now I got two books.
Good. Yes,
So my
two.
first book was 2023, and it's just basically an overview of the issue in Canada, because I really started to do the research. This was kind of like a laser beam focused on the issue, and then it didn't take me long as I started presenting more and more, and a lot of survivors contacting me. So now I've written. You can see this second book is a lot bigger and
Yeah.
it's a lot thicker. It's about 150 pages thicker. This really is, the police even called it a textbook on the issue. And I would say it's the textbook in Canada. So it's child sex trafficking in Canada. And the important part of this is how to stop it. So I'm an optimist. I'm positive. And this whole book is how we can stop it. And that's the key. Now, where can you get this? You should technically be able to get it from any bookstore, but if you go to my website, it gives you a link to Amazon, so you should be able to get it on Amazon. It might take a little bit of time. Things are kind of slow. I find people that order the book, if they're in the States, they get it a lot faster. It seems to take a bit longer. If you're still having trouble, if you go on my website, and I'll give you my website, it's beamazingcampaign.org. There's my website, and you can contact me. And I don't mind mailing books to people. You have to pay for the shipping that way, but I'm certainly happy to do that.
Okay.
And this website, I mean, it's got everything on there, my interviews, downloadable handouts, all the information that you need.
Yes, you have such a rich, rich website. I've looked at it and I have just continued to learn so much as I've researched and followed your work recently. So just absolutely encouraging and hope-filled.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we don't want to freak people out. And I find that parents today get really easily freaked out.
Yes.
So easily freaked out. I mean, schools get freaked out, teachers get freaked out, but it's families, it's parents and teachers that are actually going to stop this. I want to also say, here's my pamphlet. You can order this as well online. This
Okay.
pamphlet is basically a summary of the issue in one
Wow.
pamphlet. I hand out literally hundreds and hundreds of these. And then I've got two booklets I've also just done because I'm asked to present to public health providers. So I've done a little booklet specifically for public health providers. I've presented, for example, to our local hospital here and forensic nurses and interior health, island health, so and nurses, doctors, and then also the Indigenous are severely overrepresented in the sex industry. So I've written a booklet specifically for the Indigenous. And just so you know, it's the Indigenous matriarchs that asked me to come and present to their bands. We need to really win over our chiefs, get them on board with this. I know that's where Joy Smith has had a lot of success. She has an Indigenous daughter-in-law, I think, and she's managed to reach all the chiefs in Manitoba and the Grand Chief and won them over. I have not had that success so much in BC, although I have presented to all the BC chiefs for BC and the Yukon. I have presented to them, and I've talked about this issue. Um, but it's a tough sell. It's a tough gig.
Yes. Well, the everything that you have made, and I love that title, I'm Not for Sale. It's just so encouraging. And I just personally want to say thank you for, going ahead of so many people and doing this. And it's because of you, and others as well. But really look at your work. Like it's absolutely incredible, your determination. And I know that that has made such a difference in so many people's lives. You're leaving an incredible legacy and an example for so many to follow.
Well, thank you.
And maybe you already answered this, but how long have you been advocating and what has it looked like over the years? Because I'm sure it's your advocating obviously has changed and shifted.
Well, I really liked presenting with Joy Smith last year because she said last night, because she made the comment when she first started, she didn't know what she was doing. Now, I was basically learned from her, so I wasn't starting from scratch. I mean, she was literally rescuing young girls that were getting into the sex industry, and she was going out and helping them out and getting them back to school and getting them back home and all this kind of thing. So she did interventions. So she was well ahead. But I really started to learn about the issue. I saw it when I was teaching inner city high school, and that was 45 years ago. But it really has been the last 12 years I've gone full time as a result of, meeting Christine and making her the promise. And I can talk, I can speak. I'm a teacher. I will speak to any audience, anytime, anywhere, any place, any number of people. I read a lot, I research, I write, and all of that seems to be working.
Yeah,
It seems to be making a difference.
that's incredible. What would you say to people in Canada who think human trafficking does not happen here or that it is rare or that it's not that big of a deal?
I cannot tell you how often I hear that all
Yes,
the time.
me too.
Doesn't happen in Canada, would never happen in my family. I mean, but Joy Smith has heard that for years too. But I get it. I totally get it. I mean, if our son had not worked for Joy Smith, we wouldn't have known about the issue. And we had three children. And even though Canada brought in an excellent law to criminalize sex buyers, and not the sex sellers, by the way, and I just want everybody to know prostitution is illegal in Canada. Sellers can sell, though, they're immune from prosecution. But the problem is that law is not consistently forced. And the biggest piece missing is there was never any national prevention awareness campaign or rollout campaign about sex trafficking. So how would anybody know about it? The media will sort of cover the really gruesome stories of some trafficker that's been caught, but generally not the sex buyers that are caught there. Now there's exception. Peter Nygaard, the Manitoba, the fashion icon, he's sort of our Canadian version of Jeffrey Epstein. So there was a lot of news on him, but it's very sporadic. And the other, I should mention Robert Picton. I don't know if you know that name, but he was the pig farmer from Port Coquitlam. He was a sex buyer and he was a serial killer. And I mean, all I have to say really is the sex industry is Robert Picton. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Scary, 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 scary. Now, adults have heard of his name, young people have not. So Robert Picton is a key one. Also, I'm from Vancouver. He's from Vancouver. He's gone now. He's not alive. But in Vancouver, we have Canada's number one sex trafficker right where I live. He's
Wow.
23 years in jail. Yeah, his name is Reza Mazami. He trafficked, we think it's about 28 women and girls, four of them right here from the North Shore. And how did he do that? He did it online on Facebook, and he offered a little dog, a little animal. He got these vulnerable girls. He somehow knew how to find these vulnerable girls, and they got connected with this little dog.
Wow.
So that's number two. And then number three is Amanda Todd. Does the name Amanda Todd mean anything to you, Jessa?
I've not heard of that name.
Okay, to everybody, you all need to Google her, Amanda Todd. Her mother is Carol Todd. Carol Todd speaks constantly. We have presented together at different points. Amanda Todd was a 15-year-old girl who was sextorted, cyber bullied by a man in the Netherlands. She had a webcam on her computer, and he convinced her, he was her age and got her to lift her shirt up. So then he had her. So that's what I'm saying. His goal was to get a nude. Then he threatened her,
Wow.
and she kept giving him more photos. And she tells the whole story. It shows how the luring and grooming starts online and occurs online. I mean, she never met this Dutch man in person, and he was able to exploit her online. So if you Google her name, the Amanda Todd story or anything, you can watch her presentation. She has flashcards where she actually describes what happened to her 2 weeks before she killed herself. And the good news is because she did that her presentation, her online presentation, was used in court, and that's how that man in Holland got charged. So, I mean, the good news is she did explain everything that happened in detail and how it worked. But it's also a good presentation for anybody to watch. Like if anybody's in ministry, in churches, working with youth, teachers, watch her presentation because it describes how it works. And I mean, it's hard to watch. I've made myself watch it because she describes what it looks like. So none of us can say it doesn't happen here. It could never happen to my family. Watch Amanda Todd online. And there's a few other things that I'll mention too as we continue with questions.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you could share that and point us all in that direction. Many churches in Canada will not touch this subject. Um, how can the church in Canada rise up to be the solution and the answer?
Well, obviously, the church should be the answer and solution. I mean, we've got the gospel of Jesus Christ. I mean, he saves and delivers. So there's the answer right there. I do want to back up a little bit and say, again, it's understandable. This is not a pleasant topic. Canadians are nice and polite. We don't like to talk about these difficult topics. But I want to emphasize this issue is closer to home than most people realize. I do want to talk for a minute about the new sex trafficking. It's if a 13-year-old sends a nude photo in exchange for, say, a gift card or a ride home or for a purse or for something, that is sex trafficking. And a lot of youth do it. And most youth don't realize they are being sex trafficked when they do that. They feel flattered or empowered by the attention. So technology has significantly changed everything, even for church folks, even for Christian families. Technology, it doesn't care what your background is. So it has really changed everything. I also want to emphasize nobody talks about pornography. Pornography is the second most common form of human trafficking. Statistically, we say over half the population is consuming pornography and therefore contributing to the demand for commercial sex. So there's a good reason right there to not watch porn. And that's what I say to high school students. I don't go in and just say, stop watching porn. I say, well, porn is, you're watching sex trafficking.
Yes.
So therefore you're complicit with it. You're part of it. And then they go, oh, well, we don't want to be part of that. So that has kind of worked. A couple of other key points for church people to be aware. Canada is a child sex tourism destination in the world. We're
No.
number 2 in the world behind Thailand. Why? Because we don't talk about these things. We just don't have any public awareness nationally about it. And Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal are the nation's trafficking hotspots. There are four factors involved: globalization, no surprise, unregulated technology, it's a free for all, limited police enforcement, they just don't have the numbers of police or the training, and we have very, very little prevention education here in Canada or even globally. So that's the piece I do. Unregulated tech, of course, is a really, really big problem, as I mentioned. And I do want to talk about AI. Today's children are called Generation AI. So traffickers use AI for recruitment, grooming, and content generation. And the problem is with young people, they don't know if something is AI generated or not. I mean, I'd love to see tech platforms have to be required by law to put up, oh, this is AI generated. But people don't know if it's AI or if it's real. And seniors don't know it. That's why they get scammed. Young people certainly don't know it. So back to churches, I would say generally churches are afraid to touch it. I think because it's in the churches.
Yes,
I think that if
absolutely.
pastors and congregations are watching pornography, and again, because it's not talked about, why wouldn't they be watching porn? Then they are contributing to the demand for commercial sex. I mean, what I like to emphasize with church folks or with Christians is we have the good news. We
Yeah.
know the gospel. We know how this all ends. So the church can save and deliver, and the need is more great than ever. Men and women, boys and girls, all need the salvation and deliverance that Christ offers so freely. My favorite Bible verse, John 3:16, for God so loved, the emphasis here is loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I mean, what a promise. What a glorious, glorious promise. So I say to Christians, focus on that. I mean, love is the key to all of this. Prostitution, pornography, it's all a lie. It's not what true intimacy is. And what people want, what humanity wants, is that true connection. And love is the key. Love makes the world go round. Love is the key. And the lovely thing is about Jesus is he personifies God's love in reality as a real person. So I would say to churches and Christians, focus on Jesus, focus on the message of love. That counters all the counterfeits, which is, the trafficking, the prostitution, the pornography. Your people should know that stuff is a lie. They should get it. Connect the dots for them. I mean, I have presented, for example, at Bible schools, and I just connect the dots. And I just say, the other stuff is a lie. You know what you really want in your heart, so don't go for the counterfeit. Don't waste your life. Your life is too short. Your life is too precious. Your life is too valuable. We want to use it for God's purposes, for his kingdom, and make a difference in this very sick and dying world. And we can. And that's why, I mean, I'm old. I'm old, 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 old. And here I'm doing this because I realize it's helping people. It's making a difference. It's saving lives. I'm offering hope. What else can we offer but the hope of God? And hope, I think in the Greek, actually means confidence. We have confidence and hope in God through Jesus Christ. So, I mean, we've just come out of Easter. Surely this is the good news. We need to share far and wide.
Yes, come on. Yes. Who are some inspirational people you have met on this path that have encouraged you to keep going?
Well, I noticed the title of your ministry is You're Not Alone. I mean, when I started this, I kind of thought I was alone, except then I met Joy Smith, and I mean, she really is my inspiration. But I'm going to mention three people, and it just so happens they're all Christians. It should be no surprise. I mean, who else is going to want to touch this stuff? I mean, you've got to really have, the hope and confidence in God to even talk about it. So Joy Smith definitely is absolutely number one, and she has the Joy Smith Foundation. You can all of you can Google her. She's got so much material information up on her website. She is the pioneer for Canada in addressing human trafficking, not just sex trafficking, but also labor trafficking. The number two man I'm going to mention is actually from the States. His name is Tim Tebow. He was a USA football and baseball celebrity, really famous for football. I think he was the best high school football player in the States when he was playing. And he has the Tim Tebow Foundation in the USA. And I would definitely check him out. I mean, he's just fabulous. And he really can reach young men and boys, and he's very inspiring. The third person I'm going to mention is from Ontario. She's a Christian as well. She's a survivor. Her name is Cassandra Diamond from Bridge North. You can Google that, Bridge North. She gave a TED talk called I Was Sex Trafficked for Years. Brothels are hidden in plain sight. And I think she's got about 3.6 million views. So if you want to know what human trafficking looks like in Canada, watch her TED Talk. So just those three people will give you a pretty good idea of what's going on. Now, I've mentioned my website already. You'll be an expert on this by just going to my website, going to Joy Smith Foundation.
Yes. Recently, Paul Brandt was supposed to speak at a teachers convention just several weeks ago, and that was going to be very exciting. And unfortunately, he was canceled due to political issues. And so, what could you say about that? Because it
Uh,
felt very disappointing.
Right. So I don't know any details about the situation, so I really cannot comment on it. However, I do know Paul Brandt. I've met him in person. I've got a picture of him on my website. I have so much admiration for his work. I mean, Joy Smith is the pioneer in Canada, but Paul Brandt is making a big difference in Canada today. And he is educating all the airports in Canada and the administration because typically survivors are going to get moved around the country and they're on airplanes, so he's training the airports to recognize human trafficking. And he also runs the annual Madison sessions for law enforcement training, which is remarkable. So just doing those two things alone, he's making huge impact in Canada. And I will say from my personal experience, teachers and school boards are not particularly open to address the issue. There are exceptions, but generally they get quite touchy on this. And I'm going to give you an example. You all can look up the Canadian Centre for the Protection of Children, really a remarkable organization out of Manitoba. They did two important studies on schools in Canada and found that predation does occur there with teachers and staff. And I think their number, they've done two projects, I think their numbers is like 10%. So,
Wow.
I mean, it's hugely high. In the States, there's been a lot more research done on it, and some experts have really studied it. But it's not like teachers don't do this stuff. I mean,
Right.
anybody can do the predation. It can be judges, doctors, lawyers, policemen. It's a small percentage, but to say that teachers and administrators aren't part of this problem is naive to say the least. So I'm really disappointed. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly anytime anybody can talk about this issue, they'll make a difference and they'll save a life.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it's all about, right? I would love to see in Alberta, well, of course, all across Canada, but I'm in Alberta. So I would love to see that human trafficking awareness be a part of the curriculum all across Canada, just the most basic everyday knowledge about it, you know?
Well, I love the fact that you're saying that because I'm working on a book right now for the Americans, and they've asked me to do some little teaching videos to accompany the book. So, what I'm saying to everybody is if you go to my website, I will have those teaching videos up there, and then you can share them wherever you can, like share them with your school boards, share them with law enforcement, share them with your churches. They will be. They're not going to be super graphic or negative or heavy, and they won't be overtly Christian, but they will certainly describe and go over the issue, and it would be useful for training purposes. Cassandra Diamond in Ontario, who I mentioned is one of my heroes, she's doing that in her local school district, but she has said the same thing. Not every school board is that open to hear about it.
Right. Which is wild to me because given the fact that this is the most, growing crime in Canada and the globe, of course. Don't we want to protect our children, right?
You
Um,
would think so. That would seem
yes,
so obvious.
it does. It seems very basic. How can others advocate and make a difference? So maybe people are listening to this interview for the first time, or a lot of my listeners understand, a lot of just the advocating work that I do as well. But how can you encourage other people? What are your steps that other people can take to begin advocating?
So I keep it really simple: learn, share, alert. Learn about the issue, share about it with your family and friends, and then alert the people that can make the difference. And that's going to be law enforcement and your politicians. So I keep it very simple. I do want to add everybody should know the international help hand signal. I need help. Everybody should know this. I need help. When I go into a high school and present, the first thing I do is I teach, I need help. If we can just do this with our families and our closest friends, we will save lives. I need help. The other thing everybody needs to know is the hotline number. And I get these posters from the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking out of Ottawa. You can get these for free, postcards, wallet cards, and it's got the hotline number on it, which is 1-833-900-1010. Everybody should know that number and where to call to get help. I mean, it's an amazing resource we finally have in Canada. The States has had a hotline number for decades. We finally have it. And I would say to everybody, if you think anything's going on, you suspect anything, phone that number. But I would also say now your police have training on this. Law enforcement are now getting training on this. Phone your local law enforcement and phone the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking. The idea is that we want people to know about this. Canadians, we don't collect data. We're not good at that. But the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking is now collecting data. That is good. Law enforcement, not so much, but they have to technically. So I say report, 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 and you insist that they report it, and then they've got some data to work with. I hope that makes some sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is such good advice. Back to the hand signal. Where does that stem from and how did it become the international sign?
I don't actually know the background of it, but it is Canadian. It's used globally. Anybody can just Google it. It's used globally, internationally, but I do believe it started here in Canada.
Wow. As we wrap up, would you mind telling people, maybe you, well, you already did it, but let's go through it again, where people can find you on your social medias, on your website. Let's see this again.
So I'm just going to keep it super simple. I don't do social media. It's a website that I have. Anybody can get in touch with me there. If you go to the scroll down to the bottom of the website, it's super easy to navigate. So that's how you can reach me. But I want to give a line. A modern, equal civil society does not buy and sell women and children. Okay, I really want to get that across. A modern, equal civil society does not buy and sell women and children because there are forces in this country that want to fully decriminalize and legalize prostitution. They want to do that and look like Germany. We don't want to go down that road. Again, I said we don't want to become America's brothel. And I also want to end with, if this is okay, Jessa, fathers are the key.
Wow.
Fathers are the key. And I did hear a survivor speak in the States. Her name is Dr. Jenny Sue Jessen. She's a survivor and an advisor to the president and to federal anti-human trafficking policies there. She says this: we need men who are courageous in their masculinity, who are co-equal, co-leaders to partner within our families. We need to teach men and boys their inherent worth and value. We need good, strong dads raising their children to be good, strong people. So the key is strong, good men and good fathers.
Wow. Wow. So powerful. Well, if you don't have anything more to add, do you have anything else you want to share?
I have shared my heart.
Yes, yes. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. However, you did that so good, but I share from the bottom of my heart. I just thank you for being here and I'm just so amazed at all of your work, all of your encouragement, your hope-filled messages. And I just really can't thank you enough. So thank you so much, Cathy, for being here. And to everybody listening, please go check out her website, get very familiar with her work, and look up the people that, her heroes. And we can just continue making huge differences in Canada and around the world to stop human trafficking.
Absolutely. One person at a time, we can make a difference.
Come on. Yes. Well, thank you again, Cathy.